I would not describe him as a scamp. When you describe someone as a scamp, you're saying like, hey, they got some attitude and they're sassy, but they're harmless. Astarion is not harmless.
He is harmful.
He is harmful.
He's a dangerous man. So I had this feeling right after I got married.
I had this feeling.
It was like right after we got back and we were sort of like returning to our normal lives where it felt like this big monumentous event had happened. And we were like just trying to return to like what's really even normal anymore, you know? And that's what it feels like now here on Video Game Podtimism, the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is David.
Where we did this big Kingdom Hearts thing and now we're just slumming it down here with a regular old episode, you know?
Yeah, Chase is saying that pretty much our podcast was a kiss given to Sora last weekend.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like a legally binding kiss now.
You are legally our video game now. Sorry, Tetsuya Nomura.
It's no longer yours.
Yeah, sorry, Disney as well.
That's my man's.
That's my man's.
Have you been playing video games though?
Me?
Yeah, you actually.
Okay, yeah. Well, besides my main man Sora, of course.
Sure.
I have been playing video games, Chase.
I would love to hear about them. And I presume it's mostly just Baldur's Gate.
I will get to Baldur's Gate. There's two others that I played.
Sure. Oh, nice. Hell yeah. Video games.
I beat Metroid Dread.
Okay, nice. Yeah. How did you feel about the ending there?
I enjoyed it. There seemed to be like a point where you hit a critical mass of abilities and then you just become like unstoppable.
There's a godliness to the end of that game.
Yeah, once you get the ability to not get slowed down by water and the ability to jump as many times as you want so long as you time it correctly.
Yeah.
You're cooking. You're cooking with gas at that point.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoyed the cathartic experience of having one more Emmy to fight and then it just being Samus just demolishes it in a cutscene.
Yes.
It was pretty great. As someone who had been haunted by the Emmys for more than a year at this point, it was very nice to have them no longer haunting my dreams.
Yes, yeah.
And I liked the final boss battle. It was fun. He's tough, but it was a fair battle, and it really did make you have to use like pretty much everything at your disposal to beat him, which I always like in a game like this, where it like really makes you work for it at the end and makes it feel like, oh yeah, every single upgrade was important and necessary to fight this guy at the end.
Especially in a game where like getting more abilities is a big part of the path of the video game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did like the ending. I can't say that I have a good working knowledge of this vein of Metroid lore, but I did like the cool suit that Samus got at the end of the game, where it's all Metroided out and just looks gnarly and stuff. Reminded me of Nightmare's costume from Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right. Kind of organic armor, right?
Yeah, it's fused a little bit with his character.
Yeah. So I thought that was a fun turn for Samus at the end there.
Yeah, the like kind of narrative twist to there at the end, which is neat.
Yeah, not like the most groundbreaking thing to happen in the game, but still a fun twist. M. Night Shyamalan would sit back and smirk a little bit if he saw that.
It definitely kept it interesting, like to the point where it's like, okay, it feels like there's kind of a big narrative beat that is leading up to the end of this game, rather than just like, and then Samus beat the bad guys, and that was it.
It beat her bad. Apparently. Was that ever alluded to in any of the other games? I don't know. Do you have a better knowledge of Metroid lore than I?
I don't. I think that there is some connection to it, but I don't know that it's ever been quite as out in the open as Dread has been.
Sure.
If I remember correctly, Maddie Myers had a pretty good explanation of Metroid lore on Triple Click when Metroid Dread came out. She's like also just a huge Metroid head, so like I trust her knowledge of it. But yeah, so I think if you're looking for the complete history of the lore, then she's probably the person to go seek out.
A complete history of Metroid.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I also agree that like I enjoyed that there was like even a story happening here. And there wasn't the other ones, but I think it was just like it started you with a little bit of a text box at the beginning of Super Metroid and all that sort of stuff. And then like you don't get much by way of story after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Game is good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this game. A short game. My total playtime was only like 9 hours.
I feel like that's about right for a game like this. Like, I feel like Hollow Knight was a little bit longer, but that one feels kind of, I don't know, it feels right for that game to be lengthy. I feel like most Metroidvanias don't need to be that long to feel good.
Jace, I feel like you probably spent 9 hours in the Colosseum alone in Hollow Knight.
That's probably true. I feel like the time where I played that game all the way through, it felt like I unearthed every corner of that video game.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Silksong Wen.
Yeah, I saw that they had like updated some assets on Steam recently. That was on the internet.
Everyone's like, get excited.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just it feels like Sisyphus, man. Like we're just pushing this block up the hill to get hyped about Silksong again.
It's gonna be good. I have faith.
I hope so. I worry about all of our collective expectations about that game. And like I would be happy with just more Hollow Knight. Like that's okay.
Absolutely.
You know, but yeah, I hope that we're not just setting ourselves up for disappointment by like thinking about it so much, because everybody's, I'm sure, starting to have like thoughts about what this game should or shouldn't be by now. And I hope we're not making too much of a big deal about it. Like, just let it happen. It'll come out eventually.
Exactly. Don't expect anything. Just let it be what it is. Right?
Which currently is nothing.
Is nothing. Yes, at least to us.
Yeah.
But Metroid Dread was great.
Yeah.
Fun time. And I also played Venba.
You played Venba? Wow. Okay. I've been meaning to play this.
Oh yeah. You know what this one is?
Yes, I do.
This game was great. I really love this game.
That's what I've heard from people.
It's just a very nice, for people who don't know, Venba is I think Hindi for poem.
Hey, it's Jace after the fact. It's actually Tamil, not Hindi. Just quick correction. Okay, bye.
Thanks, pal.
A type of poem and it's the name of the mother in this game. And this game is about an Indian family from India who immigrate to the U.S. in, I think, like the late 80s, early 90s. And it's just like the story of their immigrant experience to this country, or not this country. Actually, they go to Canada. Sorry, I think they're in Toronto. And the game is pretty much told like mechanically through cooking delicious Indian food, which is a great way of making a game, at least gameplay wise.
Totally.
Loved that. But really touching story, definitely hit home for me, since I was or am the son of one immigrant man who moved to this country with his family. So seeing that story through a different lens, of course, but similarities with what I've heard about what he experienced growing up and what my grandparents experienced growing up was really cool and touching. And then also seeing how it all plays out through their lives. It really goes through through all emotions and scenarios through these two people who have moved to this country, and then they have a child, and then what happens with that child when they are an adult. Probably about our age is when the game ends for the kid.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you're planning to play it, I won't go too much in depth, except I will warn you that if you play this game, make sure that you have a good Indian restaurant near you, because you are going to want to eat all the Indian food after playing this game. Makes you very hungry.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like nothing but good. It reminds me a lot of Unpacking.
I was about to say, it's very in the vein of like an Unpacking or one of those other, like very narrative-driven, minimalist gameplay-wise indie games.
Yeah, where like the mechanics of the game are kind of straightforward in a way, you know, like Unpacking is not that complicated of a video game, and it kind of like at a certain point just a puzzle game, and it sounds like this is maybe, or at least from what I understand, like kind of pulling from the like Cooking Mama genre, like kind of simple cooking games, but that there is stuff going on in the background that is kind of the focal point of a lot of what's being told.
Yeah. There's story beats, and then you like make food about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. I have wanted to play it. I can also tell this game is going to make me sad, and I'm just like, when do I sign up for this? You know?
Yeah. When you need a good cry.
Yeah, sure.
But it's sad, but it's also very sweet too in some parts.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say it does end on a good note.
Yeah, I mean, Unpacking was the same way, where like I think it was ultimately pretty hopeful. but there were moments of like, ay, this is kind of a lot. Sometimes that happens to me where I will like kind of avoid something that I know is going to be like just emotionally trying.
Yeah, sure.
Because like unpacking, I didn't know was going to do that. And then I was like, wow, I'm here and this is intense. Versus like, when do I sign up to watch the new Pixar movie? Because I know it's going to fuck me up. Like I know that's going to be a thing that happens.
Elemental is going to get you?
I'm sure it will. I am positive that it will.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks really good. And that's good to hear that you appreciated it.
Yeah. Also good music. And I did like the art style as well. Very bright and colorful.
That's cool. I will play this game, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
And the last game I've been playing, Chase, is of course
what it is.
Baldur's Gate 3.
It's Baldur's Gate 3. It's Gatefest.
Gatefest is back. Gatefest is in week 2, and it is full steam ahead. I am drowning in Gatefest right now.
Yeah, this is the arc. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like once it gets its hooks in you. The game really just is unrelenting in how much it is presenting to you and how much, like, at least for me, I just wanted to live there for a little while.
Yeah, it's just like every little part of the map has a different story and quest to go on, different things happening. Man, it went because our arc with this game was like, let's get in there, let's make our characters, let's get started. Kind of getting confused as to the world, getting our bearings essentially. And then once we really kind of figured out, okay, this is how the game wants us to play it, and this is how it's different than Divinity. Yeah. It was like, okay, let's go home after this little garden party we went to. We get back around like, I don't know, 8 or 9. And then it's all of a sudden 4 a.m. and we've just played Baldur's Gate the whole time. Yeah, that happens. That happened. I have not stayed up that late or gone to bed that early, I guess is what you could say, playing a game in a long time. Yeah. The cat was very confused. He was just sleeping on my legs the whole time. And then we got up to go to bed. He's like, what, you guys are going to bed now? This is the time you go to bed?
Why?
4 a.m?
Why?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to eat. But man, so it was intense, but I loved every moment of it. It just felt like a fever dream. It's just like, we're in the Grove, and then like we're going on different quests, and then we get destroyed by some harpies and we reload, and then we're in the Underdark. I don't know what the Underdark is, and I'm like killing these dark gnomes, and then I realize that I haven't talked to Halsin in a long time, so I warp back out, and then I finally find Gale after like 26 hours of gameplay. Oh my god. Damn, you went to the Underdark and then found Gale. Yeah. Went to the Underdark wild. And like went back to the Nautiloid, be like, oh, let's see if there's any other like things around here we didn't see when we first played. Amazing. And all of a sudden there's just an arm and a man sticking out of a portal. Like, okay, I guess I'll grab this dude. Yeah. So now Gale's part of the party. Welcome, Gale. Welcome, Gale. He's all right. I don't know about this whole entire let him eat my magic items deal right now. Yeah. I can't say anything. You got nothing else to say. That's fine. I just don't like giving up good loot. I feel like I was running into magic items like often enough where I was like, oh, I really don't have a use for this thing. This is true, but Chase, I'm a hoarder. Yeah, sure. That's fair. I'm an adventurer hoarder. I want all of the loot all the time. Yeah. And if I'm not using it, I want it in my trunk. Got to keep it for something in case of emergencies. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to respec. Maybe I'm going to get a different character. Who knows? That's for next playthrough. You can do that another time. Exactly. But this game is fantastic. I think I'm through pretty much Act 1 at this point. I don't know. Because I think the next thing that we're supposed to do is go to Moonrise Towers. Yeah. Once you like start to get into the area that has Moonrise Towers, that you're in Act 2 by that point. Gotcha. Yeah. So I think there's still a couple of side quests we want to go through and just poke around more areas. I'm just trying to kind of fill out the maps where we are and just see what's in the dark spots and then go from there. But God, yeah, you guys did play a lot. We played a lot. Given where you were before. We played it a lot. I think we're at like 27 hours played right now. Yeah. I think we were at 4, 5 the last time I kind of talked to you about this game. So yeah, we did a lot of Baldur's Gate this weekend. That's great. You love to hear it, man. How are you feeling about the character so far? Any standouts, any major losses or haters of yours? Let's see. Just like the companion characters or just any character in general? Really any of them. Like who's the ones that are standing out to you? Who are you feeling bad or good about? Shadowheart, sorry. We call her Shadowheart. She's known as Shart on the internet. She's known as Shart. Yeah. Sure. The actress who plays her, like voice actress, calls her Shart. That's pretty great. This is amazing. That's pretty great. Feeling okay about Shadowheart. She's very edgy, but I think she is interesting. as far as the character goes. Astarion, I know you have described him as a scamp. I would not describe him as a scamp. When you describe someone as a scamp, you're saying like, hey, they got some attitude and they're sassy, but they're harmless. Astarion is not harmless.
He is harmful.
He is harmful.
He's a dangerous man.
He is straight up harmful. I can see kind of like the wounded puppy in him.
Yes, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if I enjoy his company all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just so sassy, which is good in some instances, but other times it's like, okay, dude, just chill. Just chill. Just chill.
Yeah.
But I will say that I really love that I made him a thief because I can break into any goddamn
anything.
safe.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it is easy. I've never been able to break into things this easily in a video game, or like at least a RPG like this. So he's going to be it's going to be hard to have him not in my party in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened to me too, where like I don't know if I thief spec'd him or not. It wasn't Arcane Trickster, which was another option.
It's Arcane Trickster and Assassin.
It may have been Assassin, but even as Assassin, he's still able to break into shit so easily.
Like if I suck something's blood, I have a base plus 14 to open locks. I'm like, this is insane.
I think I have plus 8 normally. Which is still like that's good
so
enough
much.
for anything. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't make it, just use an inspiration and roll again.
Which I do find that you get inspiration at a pretty steady clip.
So explain inspiration to me. I have no idea what this is.
Essentially, like in D&D, I don't know if it's always quantified as a reroll. I've seen people use it as like you can use advantage if you use inspiration.
Sure.
But in this one, it's just you get the reroll. And the way that they quantify it in the game is if you do something that is like in line with your character, like an action that seems like something that they would do or something that they would enjoy.
Okay.
Then sometimes you'll get a point of inspiration. So like if you talk your way out of something, sometimes Astarion will be like, fuck yeah, rather than like fighting people. Or if you're like really sneaky about something, then he might like something. Or if you kick down the doors and say, fuck it, let's just beat everybody up in here and figure it out later, Karlach might be like, yeah, dude, that was sick.
Karlach.
Or anything like that, you know? So you just get those points. And also they top out at 4. So you can't have more than 4 at any time.
Might as well use them.
So like, I feel like I'd try and just keep 3 around. So that if I get one more, I can then use it. But yeah, I feel like they're pretty generous with giving inspiration in the game.
Hell yeah. But great game. Just the amount of detail and craft that has been put in this game, just let alone like the facial animations and the cutscenes and the voice acting. And like when you zoom in to your character, like the world is very detailed and lush. It's just impressive. It really is just masterfully crafted. Larian is at the peak of their powers right now. My goodness, they're so good. I would buy any and all DLC for this in the future.
Pretty much whatever they want to put out, I'll play at this point.
At this point, yeah. So just really looking forward to having a nice slow burn on this game. But we'll see how slow it is because we did just put in like 20 hours this weekend.
Yeah.
An easy 20. Didn't even feel bad. Felt good.
Yeah. No, that's the thing is it's just so dense that at no point do I feel like I've like wasted time or anything. There's always some amazing plot beat that's happening or something that's challenging my understanding of like a character or the world or anything happening there that's just so interesting every time. Yeah, it's amazing. I can't believe this game exists.
It's really impressive. It really is impressive. Anyways, Chase, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a ton of games because like we did the Kingdom Hearts thing, but I've still been playing games while we were doing that. So there was a ton of shit that I had played.
Do tell.
Just like super top level, not really going into it that deep. I did beat Armored Core 6, which was very good.
Nice.
The game very quickly dumps you into New Game Plus, and I think that I wouldn't call it like not Nier Automata-ish, but I think that there is a lot of value gained from playing it again.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm still doing that. It's still wonderful. I think like playing it more and more and like sinking my teeth into it a little bit more. I'm just like, wow, yeah, this is really, really good still. A mechanical wonder, that video game. Very fun. I also am on New Game Plus in Starfield.
Oh, wow.
Which was very fun. Like I said, I was kind of sprinting for the main quest to be over with and did that and found it really satisfying. So now I'm kind of just like, going and doing all the side stuff that the game offers. And there's a lot of it. So
are they pretty good? A
lot of them are very good.
Yeah.
That'll vary.
Sure.
Like some of them aren't as wild, but they have kind of similar big quest lines to stuff like in Oblivion and Skyrim, where like, there's like the Mages Guild and the Thieves Guild and the Fighters and all that sort of stuff. There's kind of similar stuff in this game where it's like you can tell like, oh, this is a big group of people that has kind of a longer storyline that's going to happen here. And so stuff like that there's just a longer quest for you to explore there. So I'm enjoying it. I'm still having a great time.
Awesome.
But the games that I want to talk about a little bit more in earnest, the first of which is Lies of P, David. It's finally out.
Ooh, nice.
Played the demo of this a while back, and we had talked about it then.
Yeah.
And I think the takeaway then was, hey, this is a really good version of a Bloodborne game.
Yeah.
And also it made me feel weird because it was so Bloodborne-y.
Yeah.
That I just kind of like, I didn't have strong negative emotions about that, but just it felt bizarre to play that. And I think I was like fearful of what that would do. Like if suddenly everybody was like, yes, like Bloodborne likes are the big thing, then, are we suddenly just going to get like a bunch of cookie cutter Bloodborne likes and, none of them are going to be that good. But the big caveat there, and still the big caveat after having played almost all of it.
Dang.
I'm one boss away from the end of the game.
Whoa.
Is that it's a really, really good Bloodborne version, like
that's what it felt like to me when I played the demo. So it doesn't fall off.
It doesn't. And it feels like it's gotten better too. I know that they went back and made some updates since the demo came out after some like just, public comments about it. The dodge feels much better in the game now.
Nice.
Because there were some times I was a little bit like, why did I get hit with that? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why am I not
agree.
dodging?
Yeah.
Correctly here? But that doesn't happen to me really anymore. There are times where I'm frustrated with like, wow, that guy did such a long wind up and I was dodging the whole time. And then the moment I stopped, he hit me. But that's different, right? That is
in keeping with the genre.
Yes, yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what this game is, it is essentially like I said, very similar to a FromSoft type game. So it's like this third-person action RPG, and very specifically, it is going after the aesthetic and the feel of Bloodborne.
Yeah,
so much of it feels like to a T what it feels like to play Bloodborne.
Yeah, the talking to people in the windows is what really got me.
The talking to people in the windows, like literally the animation of the dodge is like, that's it. You got it. And all those sort of like weapon types, how you fight and stuff like that it just all feels very in line with Bloodborne. A lot of the characters that you run into are like, hey, that's Girgum or whatever, like the dude in the wheelchair in Bloodborne. There's a lady in a wheelchair in this one. And like, just similar kind of archetypes that they're showing you. And I think even the story kind of starts to approach what was going on in Bloodborne at certain times. It doesn't go full blown Cthulhian horror, or at least not yet, but there is stuff in there that is kind of hitting on similar motifs that Bloodborne used.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, it's that kind of game. It is exceptionally hard in the way that a lot of these From games are. But one of the nicest things I can say about it is that I felt right at home playing it. Like I knew what to do. I knew the animations that these enemies were doing and like when I should or shouldn't dodge. Because I was like, I played this. I played this game. And so like, I don't know, I still feel very similarly about this of like, I feel very strange about really liking this game as much as I do, because it is like one of the best covers of a FromSoft game.
Yeah.
And it's doing its own thing, like I think the parts of the story are very original. I just can't tell if it is self-aware, because so much of it is so ridiculous. And like, it's a game about Pinocchio, man. It's Lies of P. It's Pinocchio. Like,
Pinocchio.
That's the thing. Geppetto's in the game. He's in there,
He's a character.
There is a thing that you upgrade called your P organ at some point. Like, it's hard for me to distinguish how much of this is on purpose, but it is like a very funny and silly game, and also feels in line with like a lot of the FromSoft stuff, where FromSoft, like at no point do they break the characterization of the world or the characters, but just things are so absurd and ridiculous in it that you're like, wow, this can be funny at times. Like, I'm surprised that Patches didn't show up in this game, you know?
Sure, yeah.
That he just wasn't also here. So I really like it, and also I
That's what the P stands for.
yeah, it's Lies of Patches. It's not Pinocchio. But yeah, still feel very strange about it. There's been this whole conversation, I don't know, within the last like year or two about there are a bunch of games coming out, like specifically Sea of Stars, but there are a lot of games that have been coming out that are citing Chrono Trigger as like their main influence.
Sure.
And I think a lot of what people have said is like, man, that's a tough one to compare yourself against because like not a lot of games have done that and succeeded. Like there are games that I think take influence from Chrono Triggers, like kind of on the edges and the like in tangential ways, but rarely has it said like that is the main thing we are doing. It's kind of a tough comparison because like that game is so singular that if you say we're going to stand next to it, you got to be really close to how good that game was, which is again hard because that's widely considered like one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
However, Lies of P coming out feels like if, you know, a couple years after Chrono Trigger came out, a really good Chrono Trigger game came out and they're like, we're influenced by Chrono Trigger. And also, holy shit, this is a really good video game. But that didn't really happen for Chrono Trigger, but it feels like it did for Bloodborne here.
When did Bloodborne come out?
That was 2014, I think.
So it's almost been a decade.
It's been a while. Yeah. I think it doesn't feel quite as long to me. 2015, sorry.
Okay. 8 years.
It doesn't feel quite as long to me just because like From has still been making games that are kind of similar to this.
Sure.
And you can see a lot of Bloodborne in, you know, Elden Ring and stuff like that. But
true.
But yeah, that's another thing is like nobody's really done a game like that and have it be as effective, you know? I think you see a lot of games that are trying to take certain parts of a FromSoft game and adapt them into another genre. And like sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. I feel like I see that a lot with 2D games or like like top-down games. You'll see kind of hey, this feels kind of FromSofty. But again, just Lies of P is like to a T what it feels like to play Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And so part of me is in the same position where it feels like just like relax, just chill, you know, like this is like a really, really good game.
Yeah.
And I think the fear about it being, you know, that there being a lack of original thought here doesn't necessarily have to be that big of a deal because it is such a good version of this.
Yeah.
There are plenty of games that, you know, want to be a FromSoft game or want to be a Chrono Trigger that are just not that good. You know, they're not nearly as well executed.
Yeah.
But this one is. And so there, like I said, there's part of me that wants to be like, just relax and play and enjoy the fucking video game. And there is still the part of me that is also like, I hope that this isn't what games turn into, you know?
Sure.
There was that weird period of time around like 8 through 12 or so where like every game was a shooter and it felt like everything was just like derivative of modern warfare and
World War II
and like,
shooters.
Yeah, there was a lot of it at the time and it felt kind of like stagnant for a second there. And I don't think that we're on the precipice of doing that, especially because like it's pretty tough to make this kind of game and make it well.
Yeah. Also, these games are hard. They don't have the mass appeal that like a shooter has. Yeah.
So it's definitely a different situation, but I think that's what I'm thinking of when I am fearful of games just becoming like a derivative of one another.
Sure.
But like I said, I think that this wouldn't work if this game was bad. Like if it was derivative of Bloodborne and it was also bad, I think people would be like, well, FromSoft is it, man. They're the only ones who can do it. But I think this one opens the option for like, man, there's probably some other people who could do it too.
Yeah.
You just have to be really good at it, which it seems like these developers are.
Is this a new developer?
NeoWiz Games is who made it. No, they've made some other games. Yeah, it says it was made by NeoWiz Games and Round 8 Studio. So it sounds like NeoWiz was the publisher here, but it also seems like they had some kind of influence in the development along with Round 8 Studio, but not like huge game devs, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that this is like a hardened veteran team, but they certainly made a good Bloodborne game. I will say that I know this game shares a lot with the Pinocchio lore. I see a lot of Astro Boy in this game too.
I could see that. Yeah. It's like Robot.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there's like a lot of interesting influence there. Reminds me a lot of Pluto too, where there's this like tension between the robots and the humans in a similar way to what's going on in Lies of P. And I think that they are actually asking some interesting questions about like, you know, what deserves to go on here. So I definitely think that the story is hitting on a few marks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to like really hammer on the thematic stuff until A, I beat it, and B, I watch a YouTuber explain to me what happened in the video game.
Vati Vidya.
Yeah, exactly. To tell me what's going on, because like I like the way that they tell story, but I'm also not amazing at absorbing exactly what is happening in there.
Sure. Like a FromSoft game.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do like it. I enjoy seeing those influences on this game rather than just like, you know, more Western properties.
Sure.
It's cool. It's really neat. So yeah, kind of similar stuff to where I was last time I played it.
So how do you feel about Lies of P in comparison to something like Lords of the Fallen, which seems like the closest Dark Souls-esque game that I've seen?
Yeah, so I hadn't played Lords of the Fallen when it came out, but like I have played like Wolong and Neo and stuff like that, which is kind of a similar thing. And I think both of those games, they had a little bit of their own feel to it. You could definitely sense the influence there, right?
Yeah.
Like especially in the like level structure and like the combat being challenging. But I think all of those games felt just like physically a little bit different. And I think why this game has me feeling like, whoa, there's a lot of common DNA here, is just like, it just feels so much like Bloodborne.
Is it because of the combination of theme and setting and gameplay?
Yeah. You know, like if they were doing Lies of Paul Bunyan, like it would probably be pretty different because it's just such a very different setting than this like
Lies of Paul.
Lies of Paul. Yeah. Very different game. that would be kind of different than, you know, this Gothic era visually similar to Bloodborne and like, you know, just the way that the weapons work and all that sort of shit. So it's definitely not, you know, uncommon in the sense that there are games that are trying to specifically be a FromSoft game. I think this one is just like so close in many ways.
Still good though.
Well, still good though. That's the thing. Like at the end, if there's anything you hear from this conversation, Lies of P's fun. It's a very good version of this game. So if you have Game Pass, it's like definitely worth a look to see if you enjoy it or not.
Yeah, just enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't played Bloodborne. Maybe you've never owned a Sony system or a PC, because it's on PC now, isn't it too?
I think so. I'm not positive though.
I don't know if it's one of the ones that got put over to the PC.
It might not. That might still be an issue. Anyway, one of the other games that I'm playing, David.
Yes.
Is Mortal Kombat 1.
Nice. Okay. The new universe.
Sort of. That's also what I thought going into it. I had done very little research about what exactly that meant.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the marketing around it was like, it's new. We're doing it over again.
Yeah, it's not.
And it is kind of.
Okay.
So just like history real quick, I played Mortal Kombat, I think 2, probably much earlier than I should have. I was playing it like when it came out.
Age-wise.
Yeah, I was probably like 6 or 7 at the time.
Sure.
And there were versions of it that were, you know, bloodless and not quite as intense, but like you still get the vibe, even if you don't see the blood coming out of Kano. Like you still understand that like this is kind of a spooky and dangerous video game.
You're still holding a man's head with the spine attached.
I think I honestly can't remember if that was a thing that they did on the Nintendo versions, like if they let you do the fatalities or not. For anybody who hasn't played a Mortal Kombat game somehow or know about them, like essentially at the end of a lot of these fights you can like kill someone in a very brutal way, like just a very gruesome and disgusting way to end your opponent, which they call a fatality.
Yes.
At the time, the edginess of that felt pretty good to me, especially as I got to the point where I was like a little bit less averse to like violence and blood, you know, because I was like, yeah, man, this is fucking sick. I love blasting someone with Liu Kang's like fire breath or whatever. And it was also in an era where I think the vision of maturity in video games was just violence and how far you could take violence.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's an angle you can definitely hit, but I think in the interim, games have become more than that, and there is a different understanding of like what maturity means, and like I think a lot of the times it's just like how good is your writing, you know?
Sure,
like
sure, yeah.
That's kind of my bar for like what, like if you're actually tackling something with any sort of like headiness, you know?
Yeah. Can you make me feel like a parent?
Yeah, or whatever, you know? Like can you make me feel like a person trying to protect a stranger that you just met, like an Ico or something, you know? Or can you make me feel bad for killing these big monsters in Shadow of the Colossus or anything like that, where just like it feels like there is a more mature thing happening there that isn't necessarily just like I ripped someone's head off.
Yeah.
But I think that I still kind of enjoy what Mortal Kombat does.
Yeah.
To varying degrees. I think like the closer you get to realism, the more I'm like, ugh, we're getting a little close to me being a little weirded out by this stuff.
Yeah.
Cause like it is violent, right? Like I'm definitely not someone who believes that like playing violent games will make you more violent, but like it's gross to look at sometimes. That's a, that's a valid point about it.
It's very true.
But yeah, I think that carried me through a lot of the early entries until they did their previous like lore reboot. In 2011, which was with Mortal Kombat, I think 9 was that one.
Sure.
And they did something similar there where like Raiden, one of the characters, and Shao Kahn, one of the bigger bads in the game, they were the only one who survived this like apocalyptic cataclysm that like destroyed the universe, and they had to like start over, right?
Sure. Sure.
And I enjoyed that. Like it also was, I think, one of the first games that started doing their series of story modes that they've been doing in the past couple games, where you can play through a campaign and it's this really fun like jaunt where it's telling you a totally bizarre Mortal Kombat story, and through each chapter you play as a different character and see kind of like what's happening in the world right now from their angle. And I thought that was really fun in a lot of those games, because I'm like not a guy who needs to be the best at a fighting game to enjoy it. Yeah. And in fact, the farther I push into that, usually the less I like the game.
Very fair.
Unless it's like Smash, right? Like that's the only one where like,
the exception is Smash.
Yeah, where Smash Brothers, like I can play that all the time and I can be the best person or the worst person in the room and I'm still having a good time. But like I've never gotten that good at like any of the more quote unquote traditional fighters like this or Street Fighter or Tekken or Marvel versus Capcom or anything like that. And so the enjoyment that I get out of them isn't necessarily like, is this game balanced and perfect and good in a multiplayer setting? It's like, what else is in there for me? And Mortal Kombat has been one of the series that offered just enough for me to be like, yeah, I will definitely pick these up, because the story modes are so much fun. And usually there's some kind of like collectathon that you can play through that will unlock different like costumes and shit like that. And usually they're pretty fun costume versions and shit. And so that happened with 9, 10, and then I think this one is technically 11. Yeah. So yeah, that's where that has brought us. But a similar thing happened at the end of 10, where Liu Kang had killed like this titan named Chronica, who was like Chronica, who is the keeper of time. And like by doing so, he had to like absorb her powers to make sure that time didn't get all fucked up. And in this version or this game story mode, we pick up after Liu Kang has been like reconstructing the galaxy for, you know, eons and eons.
Oh my goodness.
But the way that he's been doing it is intentionally trying to prevent the big bads from being big bads again, right? He's trying to like have a good relationship with Outworld, which is a place in this game. It's just another kind of universe. So yeah, he's trying to have a good relationship with Earth and Outworld, where, hey, we do Mortal Kombat, the like competition where we go and beat the shit out of each other, but it usually doesn't end in such like grotesque violence as it did in other areas.
So he's become God.
He's become Raiden specifically. Like,
gotcha.
This was Raiden's job, because, well, okay, to back up, he also absolved himself of the Timekeeper job. He gave it to this guy to like do it for him. So that now he's just like the Earth Realm defender, who was Raiden in the first couple of games.
Gotcha.
So his eyes are all glowy and he's kind of like a demigod at this point. And so like the people who you meet, these characters, they are still similar to the other versions of the game, but they have grown up in different circumstances a lot of the time, or altered, right? Like Raiden's just a guy in this one. Him and Kung Lao are just like bros that hang out. They're like farmers essentially. And like the clan that Sub-Zero and Scorpion and Smoke are in are like kind of good guys right now, and that sort of thing. And so there's just like different circumstances, but a lot of the characters are just like, yeah, that's the same guy. You know, it's a very bizarre feeling because I kind of wanted them to just like wipe the slate clean and do it over again.
Yeah.
And during parts of the story mode, that is true, where it's like, this is a new version. It's very cool and interesting. And like, but I think as the story goes along, especially like if you see a character that isn't maimed in the way that they normally are in the mainline games, you're like, some bad gonna happen to you during the course of this story.
Sure. You're gonna get messed up somehow.
Yes, like in the way that your character design normally looks, you will look like that soon. And so it's this kind of strange situation where they are trying to reset it, but also come back to center in a lot of circumstances.
Sure.
Where like there isn't this desire to go like totally off course and do something really, really different. And like I was kind of hoping that there would be some kind of like story payoff for that of like, what does it mean that we just keep doing the same fucking fight over and over and over again? And even though I tried to like steer the bad guys on a different course, they still got together and still were bad. You know? Like I think there's an interesting story in there about like predetermination and like, I guess free will, but more just like, can like somebody who is destined to be good be bad, or bad be good, or anything like that. And I think that's in there a little bit, but it goes pretty like multiverse pretty fast in the game.
Multiverse is so hot right now.
Yeah, and like I think I am growing a little weary of that trope.
Yeah.
Not to the point where this game was unenjoyable at any point, because like it's still fucking fun to fight. Like it is always fun to fight is the thing.
Feels good.
It feels good, but I don't think it was, I think I may have had to adjust my expectations around like this game being a totally new thing. Whereas it's mostly just kind of a retelling of stuff that has happened. I will say that the story mode in this game, essentially it works a very similar way of you will do a fight, it'll cut out to another cutscene, which will then lead into another fight. And that's just kind of the loop there. Some of these cutscenes are astounding how good
the
they
game
look.
Looks really good. Yeah.
Oh my God. It is nuts sometimes that like it you know, like in game, it will be like, yeah, this looks like a video game. I can see it when you're like fighting, and you know, that's intentional, right? It's dealing with readability and trying to make sure that like things look correct and you can understand what your opponent's doing. But like in cutscenes, sometimes it's just like the lighting looks perfect. Like, this is what that would look like if this were real, you know?
Ray tracing, baby.
It's ray tracing. I think there is also a confidence in like shot composition, like where to put characters and how to arrange them to make something look good or dramatic or dangerous or anything like that.
Good directing.
Yeah, good directing. And so like, I think that there's a lot to love in the story modes outside of like the lore of Mortal Kombat. So I was consistently, every now and then there would just be like a cutscene where I'm like, good God, this looks so good. I will say that like I've seen stuff on the internet about like Megan Fox's voice being kind of bad in this one.
She's in this?
She plays a character in this one.
Is she Megan Fox?
She's kind of just doing Megan Fox. It's not the character. She's like a vampire bat thing.
Oh.
I think those people who are complaining about Megan Fox should play the rest of the video game because a lot of the voice acting is like otherworldly.
Yeah.
And right out of the gate, I was like, ooh, is this going to be bad? Like, is this going to be a bad voice acting? But I also remembered that I really like the movie version of Mortal Kombat.
Ooh, which was the original one or the recent one?
No, the original one.
Okay.
And the acting and voice acting in there is not great.
No.
And I don't know if they're doing this intentionally, but a lot of the time I'm like, this understands, I think, that it is campy, that the story is campy.
Yes.
And that's okay. I'm okay with the voice acting being weird and bizarre because I think that's part of this series is its over the topness, right? Like the amount of people that are like doing backflips and splits and their costumes are so just outrageous in the way that they look. The lines of dialogue that are being delivered to each other are so bananas. And so like, I think that just kind of adds to it for me.
Yeah. I think it'd be weirder if Mortal Kombat had really good voice acting, honestly.
Yeah. And like parts of it, I'm like, that was pretty good. That was a good attempt at that. But like a lot of the time it's like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But I think it's really fun. I think that stuff is cool and silly. And I think the game knows that it is goofy and that it is trying to leverage that. In the same way that like Doom tried to be like, we know what makes Doom fun, and it is not this like kind of survival horror thing that we tried in Doom 3. It's like killing demons and going fast. And so they redid it in the most recent couple. And I think that this game also is on a similar wavelength of we are doing what Mortal Kombat knows how to do, which is really over the top shit really campy fights with one another, very campy dialogue. I'm like, similarly to how I've played it before, I'm not crazy about the fatalities. Some of them are very like, hey, that's kind of creative and fun. But also sometimes like, yuck, dude. Icky.
And, bro, yuck.
Yuck, dude. And so like, that's not really why I come to the game. I know that is for some people, but usually I'm just like, I'm just going to punch somebody to end the fight rather than try and do a fatality or something.
I very much am similar to you in that I have a very love-hate relationship with the fatalities. Sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, creative, cool. Other times it's just like, okay, this is like the same reason I don't enjoy watching a Saw movie. I don't enjoy watching this. You know, it feels like what is that, horror porn or gore, like horror. What do they call it?
Torture porn.
Torture porn. That's it.
Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, it's a similar thing. And yeah, some of them are great. I think there are definitely creative ones, but just like, I don't need to see this guy get maimed that bad. That's okay.
Screaming out in agony.
Yeah, and like I will say that I think the game knows that is a part of the main fighting. Yeah. But like in the story mode, the uses of violence are kind of controlled. In a way that I kind of wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. Like there are moments of definitely extreme violence, but like it's not all the time. I would say most of the time they're just talking to each other. And so like if that's the thing that you're really worried about, there are moments of it in the story stuff, but it's not dramatic constantly. Mm-hmm. The very end of the game is ridiculous, but if you're in by that point, I think you're probably comfortable with what it's doing anyway. Yeah. Anyway, point being, I think it's really fun. I like the fighting in this game. It is kind of simple in a way that I like. The combos aren't super duper long. And so I think that like, I feel like I kind of have a fighting chance most of the time. I like the character designs. I think they're all very fun. Mm-hmm. They made Baraka a kind of good guy in this one, which I love. Yeah. All right. He's like, in every other game, he's just like a comically evil monster. Yeah. And in this one, he's like, I got a disease and it took me away from my family. Oh my God. Like, okay, Baraka. Hell Baraka, yeah. Let's go. Turn. Yeah. But I think it's really fun, and I like the way it fights. So like just on a base level, I enjoy the mechanics of the game. I like the way she fights. I've heard this game described as kind of stiff, and I think I understand what people are talking about there.
Like movement wise?
Movement wise, yeah. Like sure. It's a little stiff in the way that you move and fight. And I think I understand that. And a lot of that I think is owed to the way that they captured the motion for that first game, where it was all like live action motion capture that they stitched together. Mm-hmm. And so you had to constantly be coming back to center as like your animation frame there. Sure. Where they're just kind of standing with their fists up, because like that's how you transition into another move essentially. Yeah. And so I think that the game has kept that feeling of being live animated in the same way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think like for people who enjoy that, it's going to feel like a Mortal Kombat game, and I like it. I think that movement is an important part of it, and like you notice it when characters have special moves to like get them to other parts of the level. Sure. So yeah, I kind of like the stiff boredness of it. Stiff boredness. The final game that I've been playing, David, is this indie title called Moonstone Island. Okay, cool. This is a game that I bought on Steam. Mm-hmm. And it is very much an indie title. It is in the kind of cozy game genre, and it combines a number of things that you might expect from a cozy game. Mm-hmm. You got farming. All right. You got relationship stuff with the locals. Good. Give them a kiss. However, there's also some added stuff that I haven't seen in a farming game before, like monster training. Oh, all right. And card battling. Well, okay. This is hitting a lot of boxes for Chase right now. My goodness. It is. It is. And I think the first thing I want to say about this is that I feel like this game, you could hear those things and say like, wow, there's a lot of just like buzzwords in the description of this video game. Mm-hmm. But I think that kind of betrays the fact that like these mechanics actually work pretty well together. The way the game works out is that you initially are leaving your home island from your parents. They're teaching you that like, all alchemists have to go out and like find their own way when they turn a certain age. And everybody lives on these like floating islands in the sky. So you have to go find your own and, be an alchemist for a year before you can come back here. And so they send you off on a little broom, fly on the broom for a while. The broom crashes, and then you like show up on your island essentially. Mm-hmm. And then from there, the loop is just like you have an area that is kind of similar to a Stardew Valley area where you can farm and fish and stuff like that. to get money, but there's also this town where you can sort of like go talk to people and buy supplies and stuff like that. But in the mines and in these like kind of dungeons that they have on these islands, there are also areas where essentially where it like if there was going to be combat in Stardew Valley, it instead makes you fight with your monsters. Spirits is what they call them in this one. Mm-hmm. You get one of 3 in the beginning, of course. I chose Shmeep because I like the name Shmeep. It's a fire sheep. I'm a big fire starter guy. So,
what are the other 2 options?
I don't even remember. I was so smitten by sheep.
You're like, disregard all other options immediately.
Acquire Shmeep.
Acquire Shmeep.
So whenever you go down into there's sometimes like these spirit enemies, and if you run into one, you will go into like a combat mode. The way that combat mode works out is a card battler, kind of similar to, oh god, what was that? Rogue Book is the most similar to it, where you have like if you have multiple spirits, their like decks will all be shuffled together into one, and then you pull action cards out, and then on your turn you can attack or defend or anything like that. And as they level up, you can draft more cards into their like personal deck, which is great. I really like that part of the game. I think those 2 things go great together. You can capture these monsters very similar to a Pokemon and, add them to your team. And also they're always like following you around. So I love that there's this like connection between you and your monsters. I think that this game is very cute and I'm having a great time with it. My like bar for cozy games, I feel like is not quite as high as a lot of other genres. And I don't mean that as like to neg on this game, but just like I feel like these games just need to have like a fun loop for a little while that I can kind of just like enjoy and soak in the vibe, because I think a lot of these games, and like maybe Stardew Valley excluded from this, but a lot of these games just kind of need to make me feel a certain way and have this kind of like satisfying loop where I can get up, do a little farming, do some fishing, go into a mine, get some stuff, upgrade some stuff, maybe work on my house or, talk to some villagers, flirt it up a little bit or anything like that. And like, that feels good to me, right?
Flirt it up a little bit.
I flirted up
feels
a little
good.
bit. It feels good. I had this happen with Potion Permit was the last one that felt like, that was fun. Graveyard Keeper, I really enjoyed in a similar way. And those kind of games where it's a lot about like the day cycle and making enough money to upgrade your stuff and your house and the way that you make money and everything. But I do think that this one, like, it brings a lot. These like mechanics with the monster battlers are really novel for me. Obviously, like I don't think this is going to rival Pokemon in its complexity or depth, but I do think it's a fun like way to make combat more interesting in a way that is very satisfying. I think it is very fun to like run into monsters and see like, oh, this one's a lot higher level than me, but like, can I make that work? Can we get through this fight? Because a lot of the way that you progress is by going to these like temples to, get special items and upgrade your stamina and shit like that. So there is intrinsic rewards for being able to do all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm having a really good time with it. I'm not super far into the game, so I can't say like this lasts all 20 or 40 hours that it's going to have. But I think this is just like a very novel and cute indie game. The art's amazing. I really, really like the art style of it all. I think it's very, very cool and neat to look at just on its surface. I will say that the intro kind of hit a little hard. Like, you like leaving leaving your parents. Like, they wrote it pretty well to the point where I was like, damn, mom and dad, I'm sad to leave too.
You got me.
Yeah, like I think it felt earnest in a way that I wasn't expecting just like this kind of intro to feel. And so it was kind of a nice salve to be able to get into town and be like, all right, who's my new friends? Who can I make my buddy so that I'm not just like alone here?
Who will be my chosen family?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I'm definitely going to keep playing this, but just wanted to mention that like this is a thing that I'm enjoying right now. Amazing Steam Deck game too. Perfect for the Steam Deck. The like handheld controls are great. They have it all mapped out just perfect. So I think if you're into this genre, that this is a pretty good entry in it, at least for me right now, this genre. So yeah, Moonstone Island. Not a ton to say about it quite yet, but just wanted to check in with some enjoyment about it.
Beautiful. Love it.
Anyway, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
The fast forward feature on emulators.
Oh, yeah. Always good.
Always good.
Always good. You realize how much fluff is in games.
Oh my God. Yeah. Especially in like RPGs where grinding is a thing.
Yeah.
I may have brought this up before because I feel like we've talked about it in regards to Pokemon, like the earlier Pokemon entries, but we're going to talk about Chain of Memories in the next Kingdom Hearts series.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the one that was like the remaster, but I also was like, fuck it, I got time to play the GBA one too. So I've been playing that. And the fast forward feature on this thing is a godsend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the combat's bad by any measure, but it's kind of nice to be able to just blow through it, to be able to say like, I know that I probably will not lose in this fight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to set my deck up in such a way that like, I don't need to really play it that hard. I just need to let Sora do his thing. Hold down the turbo attack button so he's just slamming these Heartless.
Mm-hmm.
And, let it happen. Because like the in-game clock says that I've been playing it for like 10 hours, but like I've probably been playing it for like 3 or 4. It's great. That
Beautiful.
Works great for me. Yeah.
You're the master of time, Chronica over here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm the new time master. Sorry, Liu Kang.
Liu Kang's out.
Liu Kang out. So yeah, I really appreciate that the fast forward stuff can kind of cut down on the chaff of these like older game design ideas about like needing a game to be a certain length or needing to have a certain amount of like random encounters and stuff like that. So I just love it. I think it's such a fun way to be able to enjoy these old games without having to like, sit through the parts of it that haven't aged as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah. David, do you have anything fueling your sense of Podtimism?
I do. It's a good swamp.
This is my swamp, donkey.
This is my swamp. Yeah, I always like a good swamp in a video game, especially if it has like a witch in it, like a swamp witch, swamp hag, sure. Right?
A bog hag.
Bog
hag. To do it to her.
Right. So thinking, of course, about Baldur's Gate recently.
Yeah.
The Witcher 3, good
Great
swamp hags.
Great swamp.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah.
Saint Denis.
That is a swamp.
That's a swamp out there with big old gators in it. Doesn't have hags, but it's got gators, which is kind of close. Kind of close.
Gators are the hags of the real world.
The hags of the real world. Yes, exactly. And I think there is a portion in Oblivion that is a swamp too, isn't it? Like the southeast of Oblivion.
Yeah.
There's a little swampiness. It's like when you're getting close to Morrowind over there.
Yeah.
Gets kind of swampy.
I think that's true. Yeah.
There is something about a swamp environment in a game that I just enjoy it for some reason or another. Just like all the little bits of water meeting land is always fun to me. Little islands, little tributaries, little kind of everything seems like there's like a hidden area around every corner because there's so much terrain to traverse and so much varied terrain. Also just like to be able to explore a swamp without actually being in a swamp.
It's true.
It's quite nice. It's like, oh, this is a kind of fun area when I'm not getting eaten by mosquitoes and it doesn't smell.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
So yeah, a good swamp in a game is always fun.
I love that. This is my swamp donkey.
Swamping and stomping.
Cool. Do you want to move on to our main thing then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. Got another user suggestion this time. This one coming to us from listener Zeno. Hello, Zeno.
Zeno.
They had suggested that we play the game Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Had you played this? Heard of this? Did you know what was going on?
I had heard of it. I had never played it.
Okay, sure. I think I had, but when I booted it up, I was like, no, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, it was still very different than what I even remembered it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think I may have gotten this and like iNinja confused a lot. They kind of feel like a similar vibe.
Yeah, around the same time of an era.
Yeah, it's all kind of like, hey, we're trying to make an edgy character here be our mascot.
Yeah.
Which is very strange because like Glitch, the main character of this game, he's not that edgy. Like he's kind of just a regular guy.
Yeah.
But he sure does look mean on the... Yeah.
Yeah, he does look mean on the cover, doesn't he? With his gun.
Yeah. Before we get too far, can I hit you with some hot stats about this game, David?
Please.
Hot stats.
So this game came out November 18th of 2003 for the GameCube and PS2. It was made by Swingin' Ape Studios.
Great name. Wow.
Very good name. Unfortunately, this was the only video game that they made, so can't say anything else about the... I think they got rolled into the team that was working on StarCraft Ghost.
Oh, RIP again.
Another RIP, yeah. But so Strange. It's pretty rare that we run into companies like this that just like, that was it. That's all they did. But yeah, Swingin' Ape Studios is who made it. I do have a review from our friends at Joe Video of Metal Arms Glitch in the System.
I'm ready.
Their review was originally in French. I took it and ran it through Google Translate a number of times, one language into the other to mangle it real nice. So with that, let me give you an artist's interpretation of their review, which said, "It's a non-violent game, so it's fun to play. Despite some flaws, the lady is in good condition. The game is completely different. Foot on car. I guess it won't hurt if you like it, especially when it comes to the multiplayer mode lag." And they gave that a 7 out of 10.
Foot on car, huh?
Foot on car. That is in parentheses. I don't know.
It's in parentheses.
It's in parentheses.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the only way it should be in there. Foot on car.
Yeah. As if it's like just a little extra information.
Yeah, for example, foot on car.
David, could you tell me what this game is?
Yes, Metal Arms Glitch in the System is a third-person platformer shooter, essentially, where you are Glitch, a very sassy, or not even sassy, brash robot, I should say, who is like it doesn't even like wake up, is found in a pile of rubble and then is essentially drafted into this military conflict and has to go out and shoot he's a droid and he has to go and shoot robots? What are the other ones called?
I did not get the distinguishing factor between these robots. They all sort of seem like robots to me. Yeah,
droids and bad droids.
The people who are attacking you are called millbots.
That's right.
Their Droid Town is the place that you wake up and the millbots are attacked.
Droids v millbots.
Yes.
So and then you go through and you get different guns and you get through different levels and you blast a lot of millbots as Glitch. That's pretty much the gist of it.
It is, yeah. I know that you had some emulation trouble, so you mostly watched this game.
I did. My emulator blew up. I'm guessing it got corrupted, and my Xbox said, "I'm going to go to sleep now and reset everything." And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then it also didn't work on my computer, so it was not a good emulation weekend for me.
Sure. Yeah. But you said you watched a fair amount of it?
Yes.
Nice. I was able to get a little time behind the sticks on this one.
Perfect.
What did you think about it, just like, I guess, visually, or what struck you about it while you were looking at it?
Yeah. I did what... This seems very strange, but I liked the way his antenna moved.
Constantly. Things constantly smacking around.
Yeah, there was a lot of motion to him as a character, which I did appreciate. Yeah. I think that's one of the main things that stuck out to me is just the motion of him. He's very bouncy for a robot. It seemed like you get a lot of good weapons, a variety of weapons. I can't really say how they felt because I did not actually shoot any of them.
Sure.
But they looked like it gave you a good smorgasbord to choose from, very Ratchet and Clank-esque in that regard.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I kept thinking of, like, God damn, this game feels a lot like Ratchet and Clank while I was playing it.
It seems like they probably just like, all right, let's combine Ratchet and Clank together.
Yes, no, I mean, like, Glitch looks so much like Clank.
Yeah.
It's like right there.
Yeah, he's just big Clank with... Yeah, I would say Clank is probably sassier than Glitch.
Yeah, he's a little bit more passive aggressive for sure.
Yeah, so I think he's got kind of like that straight man shtick of Ratchet as well. He feels like it's just a combination of them too.
Yeah, for sure.
But I did enjoy also, in a strange way, I'm very confused by like the transatlantic retelling of the lore of the world in the beginning. I'm just like, was that just like a trend at this time that just transatlantic had to be the way that you told stories of the past, right?
Yeah,
where
real
it's like
big
1920s, like newsman, essentially, like extra read all about it sort of retelling of this history of these robots in black and white, which was very strange. And then you just jump into a cutscene which is kind of going for like irreverent potty mouth humor, like more of a Conker's Bad Fur Day. So it just felt like it was all over the place tonally.
It's very strange. Yeah,
lots of swear. I didn't expect the swearing.
Neither did I. It's so strange. It came out of nowhere. And like, they don't do it that much more after that like beginning scene.
It was just like the beginning scene. It was like, okay, they're setting the tone, but then they don't maintain that tone.
It's very strange.
Yeah. It was all over the place a little bit in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, they're definitely hitting you with a lot right in the beginning there. I will say that like looking into who like wrote and directed this game was kind of illuminating for me. There was a team of writers, but specifically this dude named Dave Wittenberg wrote and directed this game. And he's also a voice actor in the game and also just a voice actor in general.
Yeah.
Like I think he's known for a lot of stuff. He's in Naruto and stuff like that. So,
oh, wow.
And there are a ton of like kind of big name voice actors in this game. The person I really heard was Rob Paulson, who does, is the voice of Carl Wheezer and also Yakko Warner from the Warner Brothers.
Wow.
And Donatello in one of the more recent TMNTs.
Oh my goodness.
And so like he's kind of this prolific voice actor. The dude who plays Homer is in here.
Oh, Dan Castellaneta again?
Yes, yeah, we just talked about it in Kingdom Hearts.
Wow.
So there's a lot of like cartoon voice actors in here, and I have to assume that is probably just like a lot of the people who are working on it, and specifically Dave Wittenberg probably knew these people. And we're like, hey, I'm working on a video game. Do you want to come be in it or whatever? And I feel like you feel the influence of cartoons in this game a lot.
I see that, yeah.
Like the humor of it. I think like probably also like when you're making a cartoon, if you have the opportunity to be a little bit more like brash, that you're like, please, let's do this. Because like you're so restricted a lot of the time with kids' cartoons in what you can do or say. Especially at that time, I feel like that was kind of the era of like, hey, maybe cartoons are edgy now.
Right, yeah.
Maybe Stewie's like a little bit of a scamp and says like mean stuff, you know?
Yeah, Family Guy definitely started off that, huh? Didn't they?
Yeah, that and like South Park and all that kind of like humor, which,
adult cartoons.
Yeah. So let me just hit you with Peter. No, it's not very good. Peter. That's I feel better about that one.
Is that Lois?
That was Lois, yeah.
That wasn't bad.
Thank you. Anyway, so I feel like the game draws a lot from that, and specifically the kind of strange, like brash tone, but a lot of the movement too. It feels very cartoony in certain spots.
Yeah.
This game feels like it could have been a cartoon in another world.
Ooh, I see that.
And so that was kind of like when I was playing it, that was the thing that was most front and center. Zeno had mentioned too that like, I think this is like very emblematic of this era of a new mascot action platformers. Like it's kind of doing the Jack and Daxter Ratchet and Clank thing.
Yeah.
That definitely feels very, very present here. I don't know that it stands toe to toe with either of those, but like there is a lot of cool shit going on here. What did you like? Were like any like set pieces in this game that you saw or enjoyed playing through? I think it was like the third level or something. They give you like a vehicle, and I'm like, oh yeah, dude, this is very fun. Because like up to that point, it is very much like a third person shooter game.
Yeah.
And like most of that's fun. I wouldn't, you know, that genre specifically has come a long way. And so it's hard to compare that against anything modern and have that feel fair. But it like felt mostly like Ratchet and Clank, which is pretty good. But there's this like cavern you come into in one of these levels where it puts you in like kind of a wraith from Halo. It looks a lot like that, but it's got like a Gatling gun on the top of it. It hovers on water. I didn't know that I could get into it the first time I came into this area. And so I walked through it, and there's a number of other like tank wraith looking things that just like annihilated me. I was like, oh my God, how do I even get through here? And then realized like, oh, this is a game that has vehicles. So got in that, and it felt so much fun. Like that area felt amazing. And something that Zeno had mentioned too is that they had said that if you don't get to try it out, the multiplayer mode, and this is extremely fun, has these huge maps with a lot of verticality and interactive stuff. And I believe that like it when I was playing through this level, it felt like a lot of the draw of early Halo games was present, where you had these like very big maps that if you're playing multiplayer against somebody else, a lot of it is just like, I'm going to gear up and try and find the other person, you know? And especially with the vehicle stuff, it's just like, it's so much fun. It felt very smooth and not like clunky in a way that I think a lot of vehicles of this era have a tendency to feel.
Yeah.
Where
they try to make it feel too much like a vehicle.
Yeah, like you can mostly just like move like a character could, you know, like forward, back, like left and right and everything. It's just a little bit slower, but because you're so much stronger, that kind of makes up for it, right? In the same way that a wraith in Halo or a tank in Halo feels kind of like, yeah, this is slow, but like, look at how strong I am, versus like, this is unpilotable. I don't know how to move this thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that stuff is really, really great, and just not something that I really found in those other games, right? Like Jak and Daxter, and especially Jak 2, like those have vehicles. And I think in Ratchet and Clank, there are moments where you get to pilot stuff other than just Ratchet and Clank. But none of it felt quite as like urgent as this one did with these vehicles, where it felt like, okay, we're going to give you this tool at the beginning of this area and it's your choice how to kind of figure this out, right? Jak's were a lot more about like mobility and getting from place to place in the city.
Yeah.
And Ratchet and Clanks are usually more confined, which is fine, right? But I did like that they were offering this kind of like almost shooter approach to vehicles where it's this like arena that you have to go fight other people in. It just felt very novel. I thought that was really cool and something I wasn't expecting the game to have at all.
Yeah, a little bit of a different flavor of a vehicle from one of these games.
Yeah, totally. It felt very weird in this game to have like bespoke levels. Like, essentially you walk through a door at some point and it's like, you fucking did it. Here's the end of the level stats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was incredibly common for this time, but just like strange to get reminded of it. Of like, oh yeah, this was the thing here, huh?
Yeah, here's my hit percentage. Here we go.
Yes, yeah, no, your hit percentage, how many secrets you discovered and stuff like that. It's bizarre. I wouldn't say it's bad by any measure. It's just strange to see that again.
Antiquated.
Antiquated, yes. That's a good phrase for it, because there are some levels where that makes sense, right? Like a Mario game, like an end of a level makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Totally makes sense. But like, I think if this game was made today, like those areas would not be disconnected by a loading screen or something. It would be like, and like, I'm thinking of Kena Bridge of Spirits for whatever reason. Like you just move from one area to another.
Yeah.
And so there's not this like distinction between areas, but like also we're dealing with a PlayStation 2 here. When Tony Hawk's Underground came out, one of those big selling points was like, you can just skate through a hallway and you'll get to the next level, right?
I know, right? That was like, oh my God, no loading times?
Yes, yeah. That was the big marketing speak, was like, there's no loading screens in this game. And like,
people hate waiting.
They do, but also like, okay, that feels like to the letter of the law rather than the spirit of the law. Like, there's a low poly hallway that you go down for a little while and then you get spit out in the other level. Yeah. So like, yes, there's no loading screens, but also like,
we're going to cinematically crawl through this cave right now. And then you're going to be in a different part of the world.
Yeah. It's the same thing as whenever you're like in a third person game and they start like shuffling through like a very tight hallway.
Yes.
And you're like, okay. I see the gears turning back there, loading in the next couple of assets or whatever.
So immersive, though. So immersive.
I don't have a problem with any of that, but it's silly to see how far we've come.
I think I was talking to you about that. I'm like, why do all these big AAA games have these moments where they're just like going through a tight space? And you're like, oh, it's loading. I'm like, oh, this is why you're the game developer.
They're hiding it.
They're hiding it
a little bit.
They fooled me.
I mean, like, that's the thing. It makes sense that like there would be a place that it's hard to get through. Sometimes it makes a little bit less sense if you're playing as like a superhero who can just walk through walls, or like a Jedi who
like, has a lightsaber.
Has a lightsaber, or like there's a hole above it. Just like jump up into it or whatever.
No, Cal's got to go through here.
Yeah, it's again, doesn't really bother me. Like, games have to have loading.
Agreed. It's just funny.
It is funny. Did you see the store owners in this game? Like the shop in the game?
I did not.
There's like a set of merchants.
Love a good merchant.
They give me big Toe Jam and Earl vibes, especially the music right there. One of them is named, I think it's Mr. Pockets, which God, I love that name. He's the one who doesn't speak. Mr. Pockets. Which is just so good.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Again, it feels like a cartoon. I feel like a lot of that is cartoony and silly. The voices that they're doing are very fun. It looks like one of the dudes is just like sitting on a crate, like peddling wares.
I need to look this one up. Shady and Mr. Spock. Are they supposed to be like Jay and Silent Bob as well?
It could be, honestly. That's hot at the time.
It's hot.
But yeah, love the merchants. I thought that was really fun. I was also reminded a little bit of that game that we played a while back called Battalion Wars.
Oh, damn.
There are just certain parts of it that felt kind of similar, like physically, like how you were moving around the level.
Sure. When
you met up with other like droids who kind of joined your team for a little while, they would like back you up in fights. It felt very Battalion Warsy.
I did like the squads. You could get squatted up with some folks.
Yeah, and that felt very significant when you're playing through it, because like the fights are kind of challenging, especially when you have like the odds are not with you.
Yeah.
But if you have like a couple of bros with you, it's like, yeah, okay, we can win this thing.
We can do this. Yeah, it's fine.
I will say the game has definitely a couple of tough situations of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing itis.
Sure.
I'm like in a room and I'm like, where do I go in here? There are things you can do to make that easier. I think there's usually like arrows somewhere in the level that are kind of pointing you in the right direction, but very of this era of just like, I don't like, what am I doing in here?
Yeah. Right. Where's the light source that's supposed to guide me to my next location?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like level design has just gotten so good in the past like 5 to 10 years.
It really has improved.
You don't see this a lot anymore where it's not super clear where to go unless that's the point. You know?
Yeah.
Unless it's like you shouldn't know where to go, or we're trying to make you feel lost, or kind of like you have to wander around here. But games like this feel like they just don't really do this anymore. They might give you like an objective marker in a more modern game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't get lost. It's hard.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Do you have any other feelings about this game?
I would like to have played it.
Yeah. Good endorsement. Looks sick.
Yeah, I was actually I was kind of excited to play this one. Like, I always thought this one looked fun when I was a kid, but it's just the emu gods said no this weekend.
Yeah, sure.
So I was kind of bummed because I do love these action platformer shooter games. You know, Jack and Daxter is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, totally.
So I was wondering, we wanted to give it a little bit of a dive and see how it was. But, you know, I'm still kind of interested to see what it's like, even though it's totally all over the place. I didn't know it was going to be as irreverent as it ended up being, but it's not a bad thing. It's just different.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. It's worth a spin. Like, I think that in revisiting it, I was expecting it to be much worse than it is. I was kind of just expecting another, like mascot shooter game, but I found it pretty competent and like pretty interesting. And like, there was enough difference in the levels that I was like, okay, yeah, there's like, this is stringing me along. I'm having a good time. It's also very long. I was looking at like playthroughs of it. Yeah. Like, I feel like the 3D, like 3D shooters of this era, like they're not particularly long games. You can watch a playthrough of them pretty fast, but like most of the playthroughs that I see in this game are like 6 to 8 hours long, which for like a platforming shooter feels like very lengthy. I feel like like even a Ratchet and Clank game is not that long usually of this era. I will say that like the more recent ones are definitely. Yeah,
no, that's a lengthy game. Get your money's worth.
It's true. Yeah, that was a big deal at the time.
It was a big deal.
I will say that the being able to control like different droids in this game was like amazing. There's a lot of moments where you can like hack into systems and be able to control a separate droid, which is very cool. I really love that, where like you're suddenly controlling this guy and like they're either much stronger than you or like you don't have to be as careful with them because like if you die, like great, that's a bad guy down.
Sure.
That happens in games every now and then where it's like it feels good to just like wreak havoc as someone else.
Doom Eternal comes to mind.
When did they let you do that in Doom Eternal?
You can become the demons, you can control them. There's a couple different levels where you can do that.
Oh my God. Am I not remembering this? When did this happen?
Yeah, you could become like the ones that shoot the missiles and fly. Yeah.
Damn, maybe I didn't do this.
I think you have to at one point.
Well, no, I have no memory of this place. I totally believe you. But just like nothing.
I'm pretty sure it was Doom Eternal and not Doom 2016. I'm pretty sure it was Doom Eternal.
Yeah. Like I said, I believe you got better.
It was a good part of the game. in case you don't remember. Well, since you don't remember, I should say.
Yeah. You got better recall than I do, so I'm on your side here. Anyway, Metal Arms Glitch in the System. I had fun with this. I was expecting it to be much worse than it was.
Yeah. If they put even like half the amount of effort into the gameplay as they did into the animations of the robot, pretty good game. Pretty
fun, yeah. A very mechanical focused game as far as like what most of the game is like doing, but still like great. It's fun. It is very late to be mentioning this, but parts of it did really remind me of Jet Force Gemini, which is,
that was the first thing that came to mind when I was watching the video. Is that just the perspective of the camera and how quickly the guns shoot and how you move around, right? It didn't feel like you could really kind of move quickly around. It felt like the speed of Jet Force Gemini. That's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, totally. I wonder what a modern Jet Force Gemini would even look like. I feel like it would have to be so dramatically different than what's on the N64.
I mean, yeah, they'd have to really change the levels, I think, because it definitely has an outdated level design.
Yeah, definitely a game where I was like, where do I need to be right now?
All the time with that game. But why don't they just make Jet Force Gemini 2? Did they make Jet Force Gemini 2? No, they didn't make,
I don't think
they didn't
so.
make a sequel.
Yeah, I think it was a one and done.
Let's just make a sequel. Come on, Rare.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like with stuff like the Ratchet and Clank games more recently, like you do see that like this is possible on newer systems and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of like a kind of game design that is not really done anymore. But that most recent Ratchet and Clank game was really good. So
it was good.
It's possible. You can do it out there. I think it would take some reimagining to make it super fun.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like there was some creativity in that Jet Force Gemini game. So it felt like they were really putting their creative muscles on display in that one.
Yeah, it almost feels like a game that was maybe ahead of its time, that the hardware was maybe holding it back a little bit.
I mean, certainly the physical controller design, right? Like the shooting in it was tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also I just think, I just love it when you get different characters that play differently in a game.
Oh yeah, great.
The dog when it became a tank, so good.
So good.
Tank dog.
Shouts out Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Yeah.
Characters
also
are quite different.
All of them quite different. Aqua gets so good at the end.
Aqua is such a cool character in that game.
Yeah. Truly the one who deserved to be called Master.
She earned it. Yeah, no, she definitely earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terra was not ready.
No. Terra done fucked up.
He fucked up so bad. Like thinking about the lore of everything that has happened in those games, like Terra really fucked up.
Terribly so. Terribly so.
Terribly so. Well, cool. Do you have anything else to say about Metal Arms glitch in the system, David?
I do not. No.
Thanks for suggesting this, Zeno. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. If you would like to interact with the pod a little bit more or see episodes that we have done in the past or games we've talked about in the past, you can visit podtimism.com. We have also a spot on there where you can suggest a game or pretty much kind of anything that you want us to do or talk about. We'll probably at least mention it on the pod, depending on what it is. Also, thank you to Scal Wilkinson for our beautiful for our beautiful cover art.
Thank you, Scal.
It's always great. This is the mandatory Scout out of the week. Yeah. And thank you, dear listener, for being here and listening to us talk about games. Yeah, it's great. We love to do this, and we are very appreciative that you are here to do that with us as well.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks everybody for their kind response to the Kingdom Hearts thing too. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's such a big episode for us, so I think that like everybody being like stoked on it as well felt great to kind of share in the excitement there. So that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely in our feelings a little bit about the Kingdom Hearts episode because it is such a emotional game and so close to our hearts. So that it's been received well. We are very grateful about that.
Totally. Also, thanks to The Worst Garbage for having us on the network.
Absolutely.
Got a new one on there now called Can't Let It Go.
Can't Let It Go.
A very good podcast by Matt, who we've mentioned on the pod before. A very good podcast. I like it a lot. And I think you should listen to the one about X-Men. It felt good to listen to.
Love me some X-Men.
Love me some X-Men.
Love me some
X-Men.
X-Men.
It's true. You actually do like X-Men, don't you?
I do like X-Men. Yes.
Yeah.
I love a good comic book.
It's very good. But good podcast. Give them a listen if you're interested at all. I endorse this pod. I don't know how to say it any differently.
I thought you were saying that about our own pod. But you're saying this about the Matt's pod.
My name is Chase, and I endorse our own podcast.
My name is Chase Allhart, and I endorse this message.
I endorse this weird story we cooked up about kissing Sonic.
I mean, you're gonna anger a lot of your base if you start endorsing kissing Sonic, Chase.
Have I not already endorsed it? Has that not happened already?
That's pretty true. Implicitly, you've endorsed it.
There is a sort of soft support that I've been giving just by the mere platforming of that idea.
Exactly, just giving it a place to be heard.
I have some gaming wisdom.
Oh, that's right. Chase, do you have any gaming wisdom for us this week?
If you're going to record a podcast about Kingdom Hearts, it's worth it to give yourself enough time to do that.
Give yourself at least 2 days.
Give yourself at least 2 days. I was so happy that we didn't have to cram that all in to one episode.
It wouldn't have been as good either.
No, I don't think so. We were tired at the end of the first 3 hour chunk.
3 hours is my max for recording all at once, I think. I found my upper limit.
Yeah, I think so. Like I didn't, my brain wasn't thinking about video games anymore. It was just empty. It was a void.
It was just feeling. It wasn't thinking anymore.
Yeah, which maybe we could have gone on a little longer on that topic just because, Kingdom Hearts is what it is. We're going to feel it. But like, I can't imagine that just us sitting there in silence feeling feelings about a video game is particularly interesting audio.
Feelings about a game that's about feeling. Yeah, not a great listen, I wouldn't think.
It's just,
but who knows?
Just an hour of silence and us breathing and being, oh, okay. Oh.
I'm sure that podcast probably exists out there somewhere.
It probably does. There's a lot of podcasts. But thank you for listening to this one. And hey, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
All right. Bye, gamers. Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.